Truthfully, what happens is, as children grow up, we start to educate them progressively from the waist up. And then we focus on their heads and slightly to one side.
I think in the old days, you were better off. Because nowadays, they're all specialists. Everyone's becoming better and better. And less and less. And eventually someone's going to be superb. And nothing.
Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we strip mined the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children.
We're not here to tell everybody that they're wrong and we're right. We're not saying that we have all the answers, but we'd like to present a different way of looking at it.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to China Jeducation, episode 34. My name is Flora Dakas, and I'm the Director of Recruitment, Admissions, and Enrollment at Teach Now, Graduate School of Education in Washington, D.C.
So, Flora, really nice to have you on the show with us tonight. Of course, our time in the morning, your time in DC. First question, Director of Admissions and Enrollment. That sounds rather interesting. Can you just kind of lay out exactly what you do on a day-to-day basis? What's your main aim?
Absolutely. So the Director of Admissions and Enrollment, day-to-day, I help. I oversee a team. So we have an admissions team with Teach Now. And every day we're connecting with new prospective candidates for Teach Now. Those that reach out, answer any inquiries, as well as help them through the application process until they enroll into the program, where they are then working with our Director of Candidate Affairs, and they have a whole new slew of resources while they're in the program. But essentially what admissions does is we help potential candidates answer all their questions as they're applying or gathering documents they need to apply to our program, or best understanding kind of the ins and outs and expectations of the program. We help guide them through that, as well as just kind of next steps that when they get started on the program, they're feeling confident and ready to go. I'm also the one that does review all of the applications.
Okay, so that's quite a lot in there, and of high importance. I'm imagining like a cylindrical funnel in a business term, of course. I guess you really are at the top of the funnel, aren't you? As prospective enrollers come in, you get them in the funnel and hopefully keep them in there, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. You're a funneler.
Yes, funneler. Yeah, I like that.
Well, no, I don't. I mean, I think Director of Admissions and Enrollment's much better than funneler. Director of Funnelment. Okay, so moving on. I think because really this pod for our listeners, objective-wise, is to really get a good understanding of exactly what is Teach Now. I hear it all the time. I mean, there's people doing it in my school. There's my friends are doing it. There's people in other cities doing it. You know, the rollout has been quite incredible. So I'm going to lay it down there. What is, if I was in an elevator with you now and you had, that elevator speech, what is Teach Now, Flora?
So Teach Now is an online teacher certification program that prepares tomorrow's teachers for tomorrow's learners. And Teach Now's program philosophy is to learn in the way you plan to teach. So throughout the curriculum, our students are learning in a very applied manner so that they can take what they're learning in the classroom to their day-to-day workplace. It's completed in 9 months, and it can be conducted anywhere in the world. So we do promote that students all over the globe be able to not only afford but complete our program as well.
Yeah, and I mean that there's a lot of things there that we can touch on more as this pod goes on. But I mean, first of all, from my personal experience, because I just want to lay this out for our listeners, that I actually did the Teach Now program. I guess I would be what's known as a Teach Now grad. And I did it a couple of years back now. And again, for me, it was highly beneficial. I was out here where I am now in China. I'd done a lot of teaching, but as any developing country, as it develops, the systems become, how do you say, a lot more tight. They improve, and they want to know that they're definitely getting professional teachers to teach their children or adults or whatever. So what inevitably happens is the schools, the recruitment wise, they expect a degree. And now, certainly where I am in China, they're expecting an actual professional teacher's license. And if you don't come into teaching like I did in the conventional way, like through university, you knew you wanted to be a teacher, then this program, especially for me, has really provided a doorway for me to get that professional, accredited, legitimate teacher qualification. And as you said, staying in China basically online. So this really is a fantastic program, and us at China Jedi are all about shining light on positive things, and I know you're having great positive effects in China, not just with myself but many other teachers. So that's really why, from our point, listeners, we really want to shine light on this great program, because although lots of people are doing it, there are many out there who've not heard of it. And also, Flora, I have to say, just coming from another angle, because of course you work in Teach Now, so you know exactly what that brand means. But when you hear the words Teach Now, well, it's kind of, I mean, it's that kind of verb, isn't it? Teach Now. What do you mean teach now? Oh, Teach Now is an actual program. So I think it's really, really great to have you on today to talk more about this. Now, let's focus on the online education bit, because technology today is making services like yours really come alive. And you could say online education, would you, is much like online dating in a way. It's soaring. Is now seemingly being thought of as is quite legitimate, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the market within online education, also within education, and pursuing education programs, it's becoming a lot more saturated, which I think is interesting, because when you're looking for a program that's going to be best for you, you want to find the best one that's for the right fit for you. And as you mentioned, some key highlights were how we are accredited program, and it's very collaborative. And those are a couple of the things that make our program, I think, really unique, as well as how quickly you can, take what you're learning and bring it in the classroom, as well as be able to afford it. A lot of the programs out there, if you're working for a school, an international school, let's use China, for example, to open up other opportunities for yourself as an educator, having a U.S. state certification can really come in handy. And so what we try and do every day is make this opportunity available to everyone, no matter where you're located, so that you can do so and kind of open those opportunities for yourself. And I meant to highlight that before, but the accreditation, it really goes a long way, because when potential students are looking at our program, it's one of the first things they ask for.
Yeah, and you touched on it earlier. You mentioned other programs. So I mean, let's lay this down competition wise, because I've done a bit of research, but obviously it's just human nature. When great things happen, other people get a load of it and say, oh, hang on, maybe we can make those great things happen too. And then you start seeing all these other programs pop up. Is the market becoming more saturated then? I think that's what you said, isn't it, with these online teacher programs? Are you finding that competition's popping up left, right, and center?
I think they're trying. I think they're trying. But I think that's why, being in admissions and enrollment, that's one thing. And having experience, I've had experience in online higher education for the last 7 years within admissions and recruitment. And so that's the one thing that I know from our team. What we always try and do day in and day out is, when we talk to a potential candidate, we want them to understand how, through the process and connecting with our team, how you will feel in the program, that you will feel like you have resources to lean on, and a helping hand should you need it. And, when you're going through such a, this is a very rigorous program, and many of them out there may be, but you're what you put in is very much what you'll get out. And we're here to kind of guide you, not just at the application process, but we want to show you that we're here to really help you kind of while you're in the program, and as you're completing our program, that you're pursuing those career goals that you had in mind when you first started the program. So when you look at other programs out there, you might be able to get that teacher certification program, and they may market to be affordable as well. But there's what I always encourage candidates to do is make sure you're reading all the underlying details.
Mm-hmm.
Really understand that. And I think that Teach Now has tapped into kind of a world that we're just starting to see more and more. I think Teach Now, I think we're kind of the first of our kind. And I think we do it exceptionally well and provide a program to students using a state of the art curriculum, and really be able to dive into what our candidates are passionate about. Emily Feistwitz, our CEO, she's kind of a queen in this world. So, as you know, so I think having her also representing Teach Now is huge. So when you look at other, and not to go off too topic, but why I brought up kind of the market and how it's getting saturated is being an online higher education, even in the last, now it's 7 to 8 years, you just see that when one thing pops up, now people are trying to learn how to do things on their own and things of that nature. But what we've really tackled is how do we create a program that, one may look at another $50,000 program, US dollar program, and how do we make it so that, people are able to do this without having to go in debt. And I think that we're slowly starting to see competition. But I would say at the moment, it's not anything we're too worried about, but it's something in the education and online higher education, you always have to keep an eye out. And it's starting to grow.
Well, yeah, I mean, that shows that the trend is very beneficial. Now, I want to go on to also this thing of offline and online, because you guys are an online certification course. You do other things which we'll touch on in a bit, but what's the, because I'm kind of weighing it up. You see these when you go onto the online and you see, oh, should I do this or should I go the mainstream route, which is obviously to a college or a university in England and actually do your teacher program through there. And I think to myself, being a Teach Now graduate, why would anyone want to do the offline physical going to a college university now? I look at that sheet of paper and I go advantages and disadvantages, and to be honest, if I look at the actual mainstream one, to actually go physically to a place back and forth, I can't see many advantages, except maybe you get that face to face, which of course you can still get through the internet. Like we're speaking now, we can see each other, touch each other, but I mean, you don't do that anyway, do you, when you enroll on a teacher certification program? So, the other thing is, you might say, well, hang on a minute, why don't you go and do that, the clinical or the practical? And of course, that's what you guys do as well. There's a practical element. So, am I missing something here? Or is there, apart from the fact that it's hugely a lot more expensive and troublesome, what is the advantage now of doing that program mainstream, offline, physically on the ground at a college or university?
So I have to be honest, I 100% agree with you. I think in today's world, you're not going to find that there's really many, maybe one advantage. But when it comes down to meeting your lifestyle, I think having to travel back and forth to sit in a classroom and, potentially be sitting in the back of the classroom, zoning off, thinking about all of the other responsibilities you need to take care of when you get in your car and drive home. So I think that, for a long time, the online versus offline kind of argument, I think for a while, there was an argument where you can say that you really get that in-person interaction. I want to feel like they know who I am. And, with the technology now, you get that, exactly like you said, you can get that face-to-face, one-on-one time in the comfort of your home, and really feel, and because not only the candidate or the student, not only the student, but also the professor or the instructor, they too are not running around trying to meet all their responsibilities. So when they hop on that call or that video call, they actually they probably have more time and attention to what they're listening to. So honestly, so I think honestly, with the way how far we've come with technology, there really are, I think, no advantages. And now I'm talking more so from a graduate education perspective, not undergraduate.
Sure.
But you know, and the other thing is the online programs aren't always, you know, they're either the same cost as the online at the on-campus program, or they're cheaper. And you know, there's also expenses when it comes to commuting and things of that nature. So, in my opinion, I don't know if you were looking for a different answer, but even now, when I read these applications that come through, these students are just so excited that they can do something and not have to give up their life and stop pursuing their career goals, and they're able to kind of do both simultaneously and really feel like they're conquering the world, which is true. They kind of are.
Yeah, I mean, indeed. I mean, it's a lot more efficient and effective. And again, going back to the online dating thing, I mean, that had a big stigma for many years. You know, you shouldn't meet someone online. That's a bit weird. And as I suppose this kind of, you can't get a degree online or a teacher certification program online. But of course, then you realize, well, then you don't waste so much time, as you say, traveling in a car or meeting that girl or that guy who, you know, you saw on a dance floor and was actually not what you thought after all those so many drinks that you had that night. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's answered that pretty well. Now look, I'm looking at an article I've been given by my researchers from Fast Company. And it says, quote unquote, Teach Now, one of the fastest growing teacher education programs in the country. Its unique approach to teacher preparation clears the way for college grads, veterans, and other career switchers to be certified to teach in the United States and overseas. So just looking at that, there's a freeway customer segment there, college grads, veterans, and other career switchers. And I guess I'd place myself into that kind of non-traditional teacher who hasn't gone through the mainstream, who's literally switched careers, as I alluded to earlier. And now I'm a full-time teacher and I'm using my qualification to the max. It's really helped me. But those three different areas, college grads, veterans, career switchers, I mean, out of your market share, which are the main ones that you get applying, Flora?
I would have to say between those groups, it's going to be a pickup in a college grads. There's been a pickup with college grads, but also the career switchers. You know, between the three. However, we are starting to see a pickup with veterans, but we've been trying to do efforts on our end to really start representing that group as well. But it's interesting, and we're actually in the midst of really gathering some heavy data to really show some of the statistics about Teach Now and who we're seeing coming through. But I would say on my day-to-day and what I review, it looks like we're seeing more and more fresh undergrads. I mean, fresh graduates from their bachelor's degrees applying. And a lot of them are from the United States or have completed their bachelor's degree in the United States and are ready to kind of explore the world and take their passion of teaching, or maybe started exploring the world and realized that they got into a teaching gig and realized, wow, I love this. And then they hear about us and here we are.
Actually, I know you are doing a big questionnaire, aren't you, now that you've sent out to people on the program and around, because I received it. So we'll be looking forward. I think we must do a podcast with someone on that to give us those figures, because it'd be very interesting for sure. Just looking at a few other things I've been handed another thing from my very professional researchers, student demographic profiles. You've got about 59% of your enrollers are women, 41% men. As always, the ladies leading the way with advantageous things in the world. We should be following them more than men. I definitely agree, in the 21st century. So well done there. And then also looking at, in terms of, you've got like an ethnicity breakdown here, which is really nice. But of course, my researchers have given me it in black and white, so I can't see out of all of, Asian, Black, Caucasian, Latino, Hispanic, others. Well, actually, all I can say is 55% looks like Caucasian, and quite a considerable. Actually, looking at this, I can kind of see the Asian marketplace, which is interesting because, I'm just thinking of Asian people in China, Flora, who obviously have a grasp of English. This is a great opportunity, a doorway for them, isn't it, to not have to go to the United States to get a certification in teaching, to really learn stuff from America. Hey,
exactly. Yes,
but of course they've got to, everyone that applies has to speak good English. I'm assuming must.
Yes. Throughout the application process, when we're reviewing, we take a holistic approach. However, there are certain different facets of the application to show me that you will also be successful in the program. And one of them is being able to understand and speak English. And of course, also add to the classroom as well. So those kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Great question.
I'm just going back to my experience. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't have a good grasp of the language, you wouldn't pass the exams, and you wouldn't be licensed by the powers that be.
Yeah. But now English has become such a mainstream language throughout parts of Asia and parts of the world. So it hasn't become too much of it's not a common issue that we face. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a common issue I face, I have to say, on the ground here. You do need to.
Well.
But living in China, I mean, you do need to, and you should have a good verse of Mandarin or Cantonese here a lot. But just to get around, it's not, as we all assume, as widely spoken as we believe around the world. But we haven't got into it yet. But it's not just, of course, what you guys do is that 9-month preparation certification program, the licensing, which I did. But you also now delving into masters and stuff. Can you just quickly just review that for us a minute? I don't want to get into it today, but I think it is something the listeners should know about.
Yeah. So with Teach Now Graduate School of Education, you're able to get your teaching license and a master's in education in as little as 12 months. So when you start your teacher preparation certificate modules, you can then join a specialized cohort in your focused area. And we have 6 different specializations that you can focus on. We have a master's in education degree with teachers preparation with a focus in early childhood education. We have a special education focus, teaching multilingual learners focus, globalization in education focus, educational research focus, and an educational technology focus as well. And we actually are having our inaugural cohort for our Master's in Educational Leadership this coming January 2020, which we're very excited for, and something a lot of our students have been asking for.
It just goes to show you guys are growing in the right way. And, one thing I do think about, because, since I've done it some years ago, I've really seen that kind of groundswell of teachers out there doing the program. And, I've been asked a few times, can I just interview you? Because, it's part of the module. I need to interview teachers and stuff like that. And so, of course, no problem. But and it's like any business, Flora, but if it grows really fast, which you guys are, there is a potential car crash that can happen where, resource wise, you're just growing too fast. And so the quality of the program becomes less. And I'm sure you guys, from what I know, are making sure very much from all ends that the quality still is continued, as you grow and grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a big component of what my role is here. Overseeing the growth, seeing the potential in growth for Teach Now, and kind of taking the actions to see that happen. But it's a great point you bring up, because one thing that I work closely with the rest of the staff here at Teach Now, and even in our discussion recently, one thing we never make sure we lose sight of is our candidate experience. Are we able to get a sense of how many candidates are we expecting next month to ensure we have enough and quality instructors to prepare to, teach those courses? That's something that we've been doing as we've been seeing this growth. One thing I find very important, so it's been helpful with my experience to see that through, but also from a technology standpoint. ensuring that as we grow, do we have the systems in place to manage and handle the volume? Do we have enough staff to handle the volume? And I will say that it's very good that we're having these conversations and not waiting tomorrow to take the steps necessary to get this done, but we act immediately, which is great. So while admissions, we're chugging along and being the best resources we can for these potential students, we're making sure that nothing's breaking down on the back end, so that when they get started, they don't say, "What is this? This isn't what I thought I signed up for. I'm not getting the attention I need." And we want to make sure that the experience that we're making them feel they're going to get is, we're not just giving them that, but exceeding their expectations too. So we're always trying to improve not only our platform, but the candidate experience from a staff and instructor perspective as well.
Perfect. Well, I think it's time now to get more into the nuts and bolts of the program. And I'd like to ask some things about your philosophy, because there's some good stuff there. So let's break that down.
Are you looking to further your career in education? Teach Now offers a convenient online teacher preparation and master's degree program completed anywhere in the world.
Reach now for Teach Now. Ain't no time for defeat now. Teachers get off your seats now. Future generations need you now.
Work with people all over the world in a collaborative, activity-based teaching environment.
To learn more, visit teach-now.edu.
Expertise that is really outside of the box.
Flora, I've got some things in front of me about Teach Now, and I just want to bring it up because it reads well. And I suppose me experiencing the program, it also, on the floor, it really does do what it says. Your mission, it says here, teaching teachers around the world to be resourceful problem solvers and tech-savvy educators through an online collaborative activity-based learning system designed for tomorrow's students in a dynamic and diverse world. Actually, what's that quote from Malcolm X? Education, education's the passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. That's it. That just sparked from there. Now you're preparing tomorrow's teachers for tomorrow's students, but also for today, right? Because now is all important.
Yeah, I'm happy to dive into that. It is kind of poetic, actually, when you hear it out loud again. It's not you saying it. It's true, though. This is a very collaborative program, and we mean it when we say that you're going to learn in the way you plan to teach in a technological world. In the classroom, and you've done the program, you see the way that you're interacting not just with the instructors and the students, but you're also learning from one another. The instructors are learning from the students. And in the classrooms today, you can't just sit there and write on a blackboard and hope everyone's going to learn and remember what you're writing on the board. Students need to be engaged. They want education to be fun. So when you're in these classes, and you can, I know, speak more to it, having done the program, but you're hearing from the feedback you're getting is not just from an instructor. You're hearing it from your peers. You're hearing the situations and the experiences that they're having on a day-to-day basis, so that when you experience what they've gone through, you're able to take a little bit of how they've handled the situation, take a little bit of what you've learned, and a little bit of your twist to it, and that improves you every single day. And I love that the students in our programs, they're not afraid to say that, there's so much more they have left to learn, and our instructors are not afraid to say it. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think that when you go back into your classroom the next day, you empower these students by letting them know that as much as they can learn from you, you can learn from them as well. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I do like this idea of using technology for this kind of collaboration. You have the weekly cohort with your other fellow candidates, and that's certainly true. But there's also something you say, students today learn differently. we think teachers should too. That's interesting. And of course, that harks very much out of this new world of technology, which of course we're using now to communicate very easily with. And it's really coming in the classroom of the digital age, isn't it now? And actually, I think we're in a very much a flux of this kind of the whole education system being kind of like a rug, picked up and really needing to be dusted down or even cleaned and changed. And I think it's not a quick overnight thing, but you certainly see through what you guys are doing that you are very, as you allude to, wanting to create these tech savvy educators for today and tomorrow. And I think that's what it speaks at, isn't it? Students are learning, kids love computers. I'm not an advocate for them being on computers all the time. My son would be all the time if I let him, but I think we've got to use it. And as you said it earlier, kids want to have fun. And so we must use mediums that they think are fun.
Exactly. And, that's one of the first things we do within the program with our students. They're learning what their students already know how to do, how to use blogs, how to use social media. But when you can better relate with those that you're trying to engage and educate, then there's a level of respect and understanding that you're already gaining off the bat. But it's true. I mean, nowadays, a lot of classrooms, if they have the means, they're always trying to improve the technologies they have so that they can provide their students what they need. I mean, now we're in such a digital age that when you graduate high school, when I went to college, you had to have a laptop. I can't imagine now. You have to have multiple devices probably. But I was just getting out of the era of the notebook. So
right. Makes me feel very old. Yeah.
Can you imagine now? So having a cell phone used to not be something you were allowed to or expected to have at school. And now, you're probably writing your to-do list as a 8-year-old with some sort of technology. So it's interesting, but you're absolutely right. And I think what Teach Now does is when we create this platform and we show you that this can be done and that you can do it too, I think it provides also a level of confidence when one of our students is taking this into the classroom. So when they feel maybe that they can't keep up to date with what their students need, now they can. And I think it's well respected all around.
And a couple of things that I just want to bounce back here. One guy who I learnt about actually through the Teach Now program, I can't remember his name, Flora, but he's an old guy, which is even more interesting. And his whole thing was about gamifying the classroom. And he'd talk about literally just, using computers and gamifying content. And one thing he really said, which was interesting, was if an adult gets a new game, the first thing generally most adults do, left brain ones anyway, which a lot of us are most of the time, is we get the instruction book out. And even if it's like 60 pages or 600 pages, we won't play the game until we've read through the instructions. And he says, when you go into a child's mind, fully left and right, a lot right more than left in a lot of respects, they don't even look at the instruction manual. They just turn it on, press a button, and they learn through doing. And just as my little baby's doing now, the 2-year-old, I've got so many, but they just learn by doing. And I just think that's wonderful. We don't learn by sitting on our own desk, listening to a teacher gawp on about stuff he learned many, many years ago. It's just not the way anymore. So that's one thing. The second thing is Sugatra Mitra, which is another chap, the Indian professor who now is working in Newcastle University, has done great stuff, listeners. Actually, we've done podcasts on this because I met him. He came to the school next to mine and opened a soul room there. Really interesting stuff. But he was saying in the lecture that why aren't kids allowed to take phones in for exams now? And, you might say, well, they could just find out the answer to the exam, but not on certain deep questions. They could actually use that phone to inquire in different ways to structure their answer, or in certain respects have a situation where, there's a platform where you can't access certain sites, but it can still get information to use for that answer. And I mean, why not in a way when you think about it? Because that's what we're doing every day. You look around you and everyone's on phones searching information. So we're in a real flux at the moment, a revolution, actually, I like to think, with no guns and knives. But it's a really exciting time. And I think the growth of the Teach Now program is really really saying a lot about that. I'm interested in how was it founded, Teach Now? How does this happen? I'm kind of thinking a bright spark from Silicon Valley.
So we can thank Dr. Emily Feistritzer on this one. So a lot of previous research she had conducted prior to Teach Now kind of really opened her eyes and said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to prepare these teachers for the digital age and the way that they're learning and what they're bringing to the classroom. And she had also conducted a study. I was just in Washington for a veterans conference, so this is fresh on my mind. But she had also conducted a study, a research study with troops to teachers, kind of showing how military folks are, whether formal or informal, make great teachers, make great educators. And, with some of the research she had conducted, she said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to make this happen. And she has, and having been in the education world for as long as she has, she kind of, I think, knew the next steps to take to get the accrediting bodies kind of where to ensure that the program was aligned with their standards kind of from the get-go. So I think her being an expert in the education field, I think knowing where to target, what standards needed to be met was kind of, probably
essential.
It was essential. Exactly. It was essential. I think everyone know how important that is. So that was something she wasn't going to shy from.
Yeah, and I think this was I think the first program you ran was in about 2013. Now, what's interesting with Emily Feistritzer, the big boss, is that she is a grand old age of
78 now.
78, which well, there you go. I got it wrong when I was assuming it was a Silicon graduate out of school who could code for the world, and I think this is why, and I just find it humongously amazing. And what would also be amazing, I'm nodding to my researchers now, is that we get Dr. Emily Feistritzer on here to talk more about that story, because I've read a few articles and it is just a very inspirational story to listen to and to learn from. So that's interesting. Now, just quickly, I've just seen a little note. Board of directors and officers, we do like to delve deep, Flora, here on China Jedi. There is a Richard Feistritzer. Now, not a common name. I'm probably thinking not a coincidence. Now, is Richard, he's the treasurer of the board. Important job. What's the relationship, of course, if there is one, with Dr. Emily Feistritzer?
That is a great question. So he is her brother. He is her brother.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go.
A great guy. He handles all of any payment issues or getting payments squared away or things of that nature. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So moving away from Emily, let's get into the nuts and bolts, as I alluded to earlier. The course, 9 months, is broken into 8 modules. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Very quickly, tell me what modules they are so we can get an understanding to our listeners of exactly what they're going to be doing.
So the first week is program orientation. So it's where you get to not only meet face-to-face with your peers, but also possibly with Dr. Emily Feistritzer. And that's why I'm talking a little bit more about the first one. The culture of schooling, the learner and learning in the digital age, managing the learning environment, student assessments, planning and preparation for learning, introduction to clinical practice, and teacher practice and proficiency. And around that time, you'll be starting your clinicals as well.
Okay. And of course, the clinical, for anyone who doesn't know what a clinical is, it's not in a hospital or anything like that. It is literally, you have to do a certain amount of hours, don't you, contact hours, Flora, in an actual school,
Exactly.
which I did. And actually, it's really good because you can put what you've learned all through those modules of the 6 or 7 months, I think, into practice in various classes, and you have to film it, and then you send the edited version. So, hey, listeners, if you don't know how to edit video, you're going to be learning that too, and it's super easy, of course, now in today's tech savvy world. And then you get your videos evaluated, and that basically wraps you up to the end of the course, and you get your certification, right? Which you then use. You do your teaching exam bits, which we don't need to go into now, but then that goes to the OSSE, which is the Office of the Superintendent State of Education in Washington, D.C. Am I right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. And there you go. Bob's your uncle, Jane's your aunt, and your license is sent to you, and you become a wonderfully professional, legitimate teacher. Right, I'm babbling, but I'm going to babble on a little bit more because I think that really alludes to the benefits of this program. You've got a list of them here, actually, and I'm going to read them out. So if you do this program, you can diagnose students' learning capacities. Well, that comes into one of the modules, and that's really interesting because as a teacher and teachers listening out there, you definitely have and most definitely will come into contact with a very diverse classroom in today's world, both in terms of, ethnicity, culture, and also levels of cognition. Design learning experiences that enable each student to achieve success. The word there is each student, I think, which is very important. Use new research on learners and learning to create innovative and effective teaching methods. Recognize the changing role of a teacher. I like this, from dispenser of knowledge to manager, coach, leader, and facilitator of learning. Yes, no longer are we the sages on the stage, listeners. We are the guides on the side. Also, you'll select and use next generation tools and technology for teaching and learning. I think we've talked a lot about that, how this program is very digitally orientated, tech savvy. Use an active collaborative learning model in the classroom. And I was actually wanted to say earlier, but I forgot, with this whole idea of collaborative learning, research is really stacking up now that you learn the most, and I'm talking students now. Obviously, we're learning as teachers, but students really learn from teaching others. And of course, the best way to do that is to have that peer-to-peer collaboration in class. It really is. It's so powerful. I see it on a day-to-day basis as a teacher, so at primary level. Manage the challenges of the environment in which formal education occurs. There's a lot of juicy stuff in that. And I think that, again, pays homage to the great things that this program will give people who enroll on it.
Absolutely. That's it. I think the only thing I'd add is just for those wondering, those final 12 weeks of all of that you just mentioned that they'll be doing. It's a teaching practicum included integrating weekly virtual classes while teaching in a school, and you'll have a mentor teacher. I think it's also key to know that they will have a mentor to help kind of guide them through this as well.
You're right, and you can do this course while you're working, and of course, if you're working full time in a school, it really helps because it just connects with each other perfectly. Actually, I even remember the lady who was my mentor for the clinical, not my mentor, but which I guess she was in a way, but the instructor who helped me through the program. You choose a mentor, don't you? I remember head of science, Patrick Dowd, was my mentor, and a great one he was. And the lady from Teach Now was Courtney. I can't remember her surname. I'm going to say Courtney Love, but that, of course, is Nirvana's wife. The late Nirvana's wife. It's not Courtney Love, but it's Courtney something, and she was fantastic. And I do know that she's still doing Teach Now stuff. So if you ever get Courtney, you're very lucky indeed. Actually, out of a couple of modules, which was wonderful. Anyway, Courtney aside, do you need to get anything to get started? If I'm listening to this and I want to do it, what do I need to have, to get on and to allow Flora to say, okay, you can go through my funnel?
My funnel. So the application itself is really short, but as long as you have a bachelor's degree that's equivalent to, for state certification, it'll need to be equivalent to the US. So a bachelor's degree, a short essay into why you want to do Teach Now and why
Got to do an essay.
Yeah, it's a very short essay. It's 250 words or so,
Okay,
but
that's
just explain. It helps me really learn who you are, and why
yeah.
you want to pursue Teach Now, and what your background is. Especially if it doesn't come from education, and that's about it. Yeah, and then if accepted, then you can enroll into the program.
If I remember rightly as well, those years ago, yeah, I had to get my UK degree evaluated
Evaluated.
by a
Yes.
company in America. That you send your transcripts and they work out if it's good enough to pass, or you need to do extra credits. Just from my experience,
Yes.
I think most
I
degrees in England are suitable if you've got if you've got a bachelor's degree.
Many of them are. The only thing I meant to add is also we typically look for 3.0 GPA or higher. However, we take a holistic approach. So that's where, the essay comes in handy, or, we pay attention if you've received a master's degree as well, things of that nature.
Okay, and I mean we talked about this earlier, I think, but just again, can you continue working full time while going through the program? I mean, basically, you need to put about 15 hours a week aside, don't you, really, to do this work? So you can do that during the day or the evening or weekend. Say, I mean, your cohorts, you have a lot of options to do cohorts throughout the week in various times. Of course, you have to with candidates all around the world, right?
Absolutely, yes. And a lot of our candidates do work full time, are teaching in a classroom full time.
Mhm.
So yes, it's just a lot of it's time management and leaning on your peers and your instructors, and understanding that we try and be as flexible and accommodating as possible, as we do understand that there are a lot of things going on probably in your world, but still to remember that it is a rigorous program going into it, of course.
On average, if I can remember, it's not more than 15 hours a week. And in some, if you work hard, you can get it done a lot quicker. But as you said, it does vary with the content and the subject that you're working through. The other thing is, of
Exactly.
course, a lot easier to just jump on a piece of technology like a computer, isn't it? And then to actually drive in your car down to the university or college and so forth. So that's it's a huge advantage that we talked about already. Now, I'm sorry, we got to bring this up. This is the big one. How much does it cost to get licensed through Teach Now?
Great question. So it is $6,000 total for the Teach Now certification program.
Okay,
$6,000
$6,000
US dollars.
Yeah, and I've heard people say that's too cheap. That can't be right. It can't be legitimate. Boring as it is, but the accreditation stuff, it is very much true. I've seen the documentation. Can you quickly just tell us the accreditation, what you're accredited with? Because it is important and a real benefit, I think, to know about.
Yeah, so we are CAPE accredited, which is the Council for Accreditation of Educator Preparation, as well as DEAC, Distance Education Accrediting Commission. And we are also HELC approved as well, which is Higher Education Licensure Commission, but that's, as you said, the Office of the State Superintendent of Education as well.
So I mean, three distinct bodies there.
Yeah, but CAPE accreditation is usually the one that everyone's confirming, or really wants to make sure as they're looking into different preparation programs or certification programs. So I know there may be individuals out there that say, wow, how is that so cheap? But you know what, there's also people out there say, wow, I don't know if I can afford that. So it's very interesting. But I will say, comparatively to other programs in the United States, you're paying for what you get. When there's no campus or other fees that we need to really oversee. We're paying for the program. So our candidates are paying for, the education that they're going to get. They're not also paying for the infrastructure and the buildings and the construction and things of that nature, or the cafeterias that others do pay. And a lot of times those brick and mortar institutions, their online programs, tend to not be any less expensive than their on-campus programs or the counterpart. the tuition's still the same, and you're not paying for all the resources that you're not getting all the resources you're paying for.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, $6,000 is cheap as chips, as we'd say in England. Now, before we go, because I think we've covered a lot today, Flora, I just got to, I like doing this. I like reading out certain testimonials, and there's some that have become, in front of me that I just think say a lot. You can't get better than word of mouth promotion. But just listen to a few of these. I'm sure you've read all of them, but it's always good to go over it again. So this is someone from the United States, Ophelia Edamudia. I hope I said that right. If you ever listen, I do apologize if I haven't. I've experienced firsthand the innovative preparation techniques that the program uses to prepare teachers for today's classroom and, of course, tomorrow's. Didn't put that. I especially like the technology component of the program, which transformed the way I teach in my classroom. Wonderful. I believe in the principle of teaching students to be able to succeed in the 21st century, kind of important. That's where they're going to be living and working. Teach Now recognizes this shift, indeed it does, and is preparing teachers to implement these strategies in their classroom. I also greatly benefited from the feedback and, again, that collaborative nature of the program. Great stuff. Here's another one from this person's from Japan. My wife's from Japan. I'm sure we don't know them. Lots of people live in Japan. Education has transformed my life. Oh, how lovely. I was the first person in my family to attend university. I was fortunate enough to complete my course of study with Teach Now in 2016. Earning my teaching credential was a game changer for me. It's led to me pursuing a career in international education and being able to send my children to an international school. I'm a fervent believer in the emancipatory potential of education. Wonderful stuff. And again, I'm reading this out because it's absolutely true. I really am a huge advocate for this program that you work with, Flora. I really am. And I really want to talk more about it with others. As I said, we get Emily on as well. It's just such a positive thing. And here's another one. Sorry to go on. While professional, this is from a person in the United States this year, 2019. While professionally online teaching is not new to me, Teach Now revived my passion for teaching. That's funny enough, as a teacher in my school at the moment that's just joined the Teach Now, and he just said he was in a rut. He really felt like he needed some inspiration. And again, that word revival. And I think that's something you guys really bring to the fore. She goes on, I've been instructing English composition for community college since 2011. The video and audio recordings of my instruction left me no room to hide. And that is what I needed in order to evaluate myself honestly. Too few people have bothered. Yeah, too few people have bothered to look at my lessons objectively in the past and with this much frequency. So again, it really does improve you as an experienced teacher. This one, Scott Armstrong, United States again. I'm so appreciative of this program. I felt it. Here we go. A godsend. Wow. Ooh. I'm a huge advocate of the program, as of course we are, Scott, and we'll send others to this program in the future, as we will indeed as well, as long as Flora's still working there. I can't thank you enough. I'm happy to complete the program, but I'm saddened I won't be daily engaged with you all. Oh, he misses the community that was felt with Teach Now. And last but not least, I like this one too. I've taken a look through the entirety of the platform, and I have to agree, it is a beautifully designed framework and extremely easy to navigate and to see the layout of the curriculum. I have a clear idea what's happening in the near future, and I'm excited for it. It definitely requires a significant level of engagement. That's important. It's not just a go online, do an assignment, and meet next week, is it? It really is. You are fully engaged, which is what all students should be in the classroom. I have to learn by doing, as it is the only way the knowledge will be retained. This program is brilliant. I think probably the listeners can take that opinion from me quite easily after the first 10 or 20 minutes, but it really is. And I wish you all the best of success, Flora. Is there anything you'd like to add?
This is wonderful. It really was kind of a way to switch out my day to day and really connect with a graduate of Teach Now, and also really be able to tell others about it and really tell them about what Teach Now is all about, and that we're really trying to make a difference. And we hope that by us making a difference, then our listeners can too make a difference in the world of education. So yeah, I guess that's it. But it's been an honor to be here.
Well,
thank you.
you are formally a China Jeducator now. Can I use that one? I never had. Yes, I've been nodded to. I can. A China Jeducator. Now, before we go, we must say, where can listeners find out more about Teach Now, Flora? Give us the website, and of course, we'll put it on the notes as well.
So it's teach-now.edu.
We'll catch up again, I'm sure, another time. But you go back
Absolutely.
to funneling prospective teachers, old and new, into your system, because they really will get a huge benefit. This is China Jedi, people.
If you're an English-speaking teacher from anywhere in the world and you have a bachelor's degree but need an official and accredited teaching license to get a job, get a visa to teach abroad, or most importantly to learn all those things you wish you knew before you stood in front of 30-plus students, then reach now to Teach Now and secure a professional US District of Columbia license in as little as 9 months. Online in no time, low cost, high quality. Teach Now. Get in the game. Immediately receive a $100 discount off your tuition by signing up to the Teach Now program via the link www.teach-now.edu/China Jedi.
May the smile be with you.